The Snowflake schema is an option that you have when designing parts of your data warehouse. And so in this video, I want to talk about the basics of a Snowflake schema, just so you can get your head around the idea of a Snowflake schema. And we'll start with the question very directly: what exactly is a Snowflake schema? A Snowflake schema is really a star schema with a little extra normalization added in. Now keep in mind, when we talk about data warehousing, usually we tend to shy away from normalization. As a matter of fact, the idea of normalization doesn't generally affect the way we think about storing our data, because we're mostly concerned with getting all of our data summarized and as close together in as few tables as possible so that we can report on it very quickly, and we can do all kind of investigative data mining type queries to look for other things in the data. So in a Snowflake schema, we start off with a star schema, and then our dimension tables are normalized somewhat. Now, why would we want to use a Snowflake schema? Well, from time to time, you may want to satisfy the gathering functionality requirements of more advanced data warehousing mining tools. Now, we're going to kind of very quickly wander away from the main objectives of this 70-463 exam here, because on the exam, Microsoft just wants to know that you understand the basics of data warehouse design and implementation. But you do need to understand that a lot of times out there in the real world, there are companies like Cognos and some others that sell very excellent products that will basically attach to your data warehouse or to your analysis services, cubes and so forth, and it will do all kind of magic for you as far as, pulling data, correlating data, doing all kind of cool things with it. Some of those type tools may require you or may work a lot more efficiently if you have a little bit of normalization in those dimension tables. It helps with drill downs and pivots and all this sort of thing. So just keep that in mind. Now, you can also use this Snowflake schema to logically separate very large dimension tables, to make them a little more human readable, to split the data up logically, to just more naturally separate it so it's easier to follow, to help you deal with certain things that are inherent in the data, like known customers versus anonymous customers. If you think about this, if you have a website out there and you sell memberships, and so your members are buying product, but also people can purchase without being members. Well, I may want to see data on my members and on my anonymous customers, so I know what's appealing to each one of them. In that situation, if I'm building a data warehouse, I may want to put my known customer dimensional data in one dimension and my anonymous customers in another one. And there's a lot of different ways to go about this. Now, there are really two main rules concerning the Snowflake schema, at least two main rules. The number one main rule is don't use it. And this sounds a little funny, I know, but almost anything you read out there about Snowflake schemas will talk about what they are, talk about what they can do for you, and then they'll always say, but do not do this unless you have to. Unless you want to or need to, stay away from the Snowflake. Now, what you really want to do is test your design and make your own determination. Now, why wouldn't I want to use a Snowflake schema? Well, all you have to do is look at the diagram to see. This is, notice, it's a regular star schema, but we have denormalized this dimension, this one, and this one. And so we've got the ability here maybe to drill down or to pivot. Maybe this is general information, this is about a particular area, this is about a smaller area within that, right? This could be a region or a hemisphere, this could be a country, and this could be a state. A lot of different ways to do these. This is a very artistic endeavor with data warehouses. There's a science here, yes, but more so than not, the most important thing by far for most data warehouses is assimilating this data in a structure that can be very easily returned and we can get the most use out of it. Okay. Now, do notice something here though. The more of these dimension tables that we have that are normalized in a Snowflake, the harder it's going to be, or if harder is not a good word, the more complex it's going to be to load data into this data warehouse or into this particular data mart, right? Because we've got to load our fact tables, then we've got to load this dimension in a way that it still relates back to and gives this fact down here a meaningful measurement. But then we've got to make sure that this dimensional information matches up with this, and this matches up with this, and so it can add complexity. But the bottom line, your takeaway from this video is Snowflake schema is really a star with some normalization added to the dimensions, and there are times you're going to want this, times you won't want it. The general rule, look for those times when you don't want it, use it when you have to, but test to make sure that the added complexity is giving you something that's worth the return value for what you're actually getting out of it. So anyway, that's some basics on the Snowflake schema.